Hi, my name's Rachelle Unreich, and I want to talk about my book, A Brilliant Life, my mother's true inspiring story of surviving the Holocaust. My mother, Mira, was a dazzling, incredible person, and I hope when you read this, you feel inspiration and the magic of Mira leap from every word on the page. I started interviewing my mother in the last 6 months of her life. She'd been diagnosed with cancer, and at first my brother said to interview her as a way to distract her from her illness and her discomfort. But soon I came to realize that what I really wanted to know were two things. How had she survived 4 concentration camps, including Auschwitz, and a death march, and had gone on not just to live, but to thrive and to really flourish? She lived a beautiful life. And the other thing I wanted to know was what was behind all these strange, mysterious, inexplicable things that constantly seemed to happen around her. Were they moments of luck? Were they coincidence, fate, destiny, or did they point to something bigger in the universe? I began to write this book based on one thing. I'd often tried to write her story and I just couldn't find a way into it. But then I found myself in the most locked down city in the world during the pandemic, Melbourne. And in lockdown number 6, I went for a walk with my neighbour, Diana. Diana's husband had received a terrible diagnosis himself at the very beginning of the pandemic. And she constantly wanted to hear about Mira and find inspiration from her. And I was complaining about my life as a journalist and how work had really closed down. And I said, but I also want to write about my mother. And she stopped me in my tracks and she said, isn't that what you want your legacy to be? And I really thought about that word legacy. Without me writing my mother's story, her legacy would be lost. Her very important, incredible historical legacy. And also there was my legacy on top of that, far less important. So the next morning I woke up. I sat at my computer at 8:30 a.m. and I didn't leave until midnight. I repeated that for 7 days a week for the next 6 weeks. And after that, I had a first draft. And I really felt like something else was at play when I was writing that, the magic of Mira that I spoke about before. To describe the kind of person my mother was, I'll tell you one story. When she was interviewed by the Melbourne Holocaust Museum, decades after the war, she went through all the things she'd experienced, just a litany of horrors, one after the other. The people she'd lost, the cruelty she'd seen, just the most unimaginable horrors. And at the end of it, the interviewer said to her, "What do you think saved you?" And she said, without barely a moment's pause, the goodness of people. And in fact, she said that to me often. The Holocaust taught me about the goodness of people. She was not someone to focus on man's capability of destruction, for man's cruelty. Instead, she looked at all those individuals, Jewish and non-Jewish alike, who saved her life and intervened. I hope when you read it, you feel not just the grimness of that part of the story, but the joy of her, because there is a lot in there about her life in Paris after the war, where she lived and enjoyed every moment of culture and fashion that that city had to offer, to her life in Australia, where she was just this dynamo, this incredible independent woman. And I think really it's impossible not to feel the magic of Mira and to not feel inspired by her. Thank you.